Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Wednesday, July 22nd, 2020. And our top stories today: Georgia Employee Retirement System and other public plan administrators persevere during this pandemic. And then we'll take a look at what's in store this year for the Georgia Employee Retirement System. Joining me now to discuss this and more is Jim Potvin. He's the Executive Director of the Employee Retirement System of Georgia. Jim, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Nice to see you again, Jeff.
It's great to talk with you. So when we last spoke about 4 months ago, the pandemic had just hit the United States and a lot of businesses and organizations were shuttering. And I think you had just relocated your staff back to their homes. I want to first check in. How is the team doing? How is your staff doing? How are things going?
You know, I really can't say enough about how our employees have reacted to all of this. They've been totally professional. We're able to do virtually everything that we could do in the office from home. We were a little bit fortunate. Just about everybody did at least a little bit of teleworking before we got started. So we had a really solid infrastructure in place. But still, it's tough to go from, mostly being in the office to being physically isolated from each other. But they've really stepped up, doing a great job of communicating with each other and, of course, keeping up with everything going on with our members. So couldn't be happier right now with how they've performed.
And, a lot of businesses and government entities have adopted video conferencing, virtual conferencing, teleconferencing, however you want to define it. I'm assuming that you all are using very similar technologies to speak to your employees, speak as teams, and then do you do any of that for interacting with your membership?
Yeah, whatever the member is most comfortable with. It's probably mostly telephone and a little bit of video conference. But yeah, whatever is available. Skype, Zoom, WebEx are all your friend.
Yeah, they are. Microsoft Teams. We don't Google Meets. We don't want to let anybody leave anyone out. Jim, in terms of let's talk a little bit about the membership and first, can you give us an update on kind of the status of government? Because it's not only state government. You most likely have affiliated local governments that are part of the state retirement system. What is their status? I would assume many of those individuals working from home, unless they have jobs that require them, for example, to be on the road crew or police, firefighters, emergency personnel, they need to be there. How are they all doing? Are they sequestered, many of them?
Yeah, I mean, we had an order early on from the governor saying that to the extent that we would be able to work from home, we should do that. In some cases, take driver services, for example, where you have to be face-to-face with the public. They were actually, severely curtailed in terms of their hours and their ability to connect with the public for a while. Lately, we've been trying to bring some of those functions of state government back online. Mm-hmm. Again, very fortunate that I'm not personally having to deal with that in my agency, but a lot of those other agencies are, and they're going through the protocols and trying to set things up for the safety of their employees and the public.
Yeah, it's a Herculean effort, to say the least. I mean, one going virtual, but your jobs, the jobs of state and local government, I mean, they have a essential role. I mean, it could be emergency personnel, it could be people that are delivering important services to the general public, to people in Georgia. So they have a very important role to play. I can imagine that can be very
Absolutely.
challenging. Jim, I want to talk, if we might get your feedback in terms of what member inquiries, and maybe we'll divide it. Let's start with the pension plan, because under the pension, members who are retirees can draw a benefit. But what have been some of the queries you've gotten, the concerns, or just the general feedback from those who are members of the retirement system?
Well, it's been interesting, actually. So we run the call center for the pension side, internally. So we have direct access to all those statistics. And our call volume has dropped by about 25 to 30% since the pandemic started, at least since our teleworking has started back in March. So either that means that people have something else on their minds, or they're just not as concerned about what we're doing for them as they are maybe about other aspects of their lives. I will also say that state turnover among the employee population is declining. The number of new retirees per month is declining a little bit. So there just seems to be an overall slowdown as people are trying to just kind of ride out, I think, what's going on right now. But the most common inquiries are what you would expect them to be in normal times. There's not a lot of, I guess, fear related to their pension benefit per se, and that's very gratifying. We've worked very hard to be one less thing for our folks to worry about, and it appears to be holding steady right now.
Yeah, and I guess the reliability that you establish as a team, as a unit, as a entity carried forward, so people know that they can get their checks if they've elected to get a check, or they get their wire or EFT, however they're delivered their proceeds. So probably not a concern for them. They didn't have a concern previously, and they would not have a concern unless they didn't get it, and then I'm sure they would call.
You'd hear about that for sure.
Yeah, they would pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, I didn't get my check," and I can all of us can understand why. Do you? And I want to now shift to the defined contribution side, which I know that you have a record-keeping partner in A-Lite Solutions. I think you just went through it last time we checked. You just went through a rebid, reselected A-Lite. I assume that they take phone calls on behalf of the defined contribution plan. Have you received any idea and statistics of what those phone calls may be like?
Yeah, so you get a little bit more concern on that side since people have more direct access and responsibility for their investments. We've seen a little bit of a shift in the makeup of our member investment accounts toward what they consider to be safer options, a little bit more toward the money market and toward our target maturity bond funds. So there's been a little bit of that. We also implemented the coronavirus distribution as part of recent federal legislation. And we've had something like 12 or 1,300 people out of 36,000 or so take a distribution, about $5 million out of the plan in total. And for us, it was a little bit of a concern because we don't have loan provisions in our plan. So we were wondering if we would get a real flood of those distributions. And it's really not been. The average distribution is only a few $1,000s. It doesn't seem to be any real panic, just people trying to prudently plan and react to the circumstances they're facing.
And when you talk about circumstances, I mean, and I think you alluded to this with the call center conversation a moment ago about the DB plan, or excuse me, the pension plan. I think a lot of people are focused on the day-to-day. How am I going to pay my rent? How am I going to get my work done? How am I going to, up until recently, get my children educated? Maybe they're in summer camp now. What am I going to do with them? So I think a lot of that has taken priority.
For sure.
In terms of communication and education on the DC plan, and maybe on the pension plan as well, the defined contribution plan on the pension plan, have you enacted any more type of communication, letting people know, hey, these are some resources, this money is available if should you choose to go down that route? Have you been partnering with A-Lite and your vendors to do that?
For sure. We're not over promoting it.
Sure.
I would say it's not like we implemented the new distribution rule and said everybody come get your money or anything like that, but we wanted to be clear that it was available and make it as simple as possible for those who were truly in need about that. Truly, our membership has been very steady as you go, though, since this all began. Our participation rate is holding steady at about 92%. Our average contribution rate is pretty much rock solid at about 5%. Almost across the board, our metrics are pretty much holding stable over the past 6 months. So, so far, so good as far as, the reaction of our membership.
Oh, good for you. And that's great for the team. Jim, I want to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to catch up more with Jim and find out what things he and the team are thinking about going forward later in 2020. So stay tuned right here on BRN AM.
But if you're tired of the same old stuff,
Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
The windows on our homes, they protect us and the ones we love, but they do much more. At Renewal by Andersen, making your home more comfortable is at the center of every window we make. It's why we custom build our windows in America and install them in as little as 1 day. It's why we build our frames with exclusive Fibrex composite material that's 2 times stronger than vinyl. It's why our glass helps keep your home warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and quieter all year long. It's why we stand behind every window with a 20-year limited warranty. Why not help lower your energy costs while giving your home and family the best? Call 1-800-835-6525 to schedule a free in-home consultation. Buy one, get one at 40% off with this special offer. Plus, get special financing with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 1 full year. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-835-6525 now.
Welcome back. We're talking to Jim Potvin. He's the Executive Director of the Employee Retirement System of Georgia. Jim, thanks for staying with us this morning.
Thank you, Jeff.
So it looks like members of both the pension and the retirement DC plan have kind of, stayed the course and done an exceptional job. Credit to your organization. You're also a member of the National Association of State Retirement Administrators. I guess my first question is around, have you heard from your peers, other states, other entities that are part of your enclave, your group, and how they've done during this time?
There's a lot of stories that are somewhat similar. The details obviously vary, but for the most part, the pension community has been doing a really good job. Again, it's all about getting the checks out every month, and we have, as a group, collectively been able to keep doing that. So I think overall we're doing okay. Investment results were certainly a worry for a time there. We had a period where we lost about 25% of our asset value in about a 6-week period. But I believe most of us have bounced back pretty well from that. We ended up with a year-to-date investment return that was just a little bit below our assumed return. So overall, if you just look at our end result, it doesn't look like that big of a year. But a lot went into getting to that point for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jim, NASRA has its annual conference every year, and usually it's a certain location. You pick it and you go. Obviously, this year, very different. Will that be a virtual conference, as many other conferences have gone virtual?
Yeah, that's right. We were really looking forward to going to Utah this year, but unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get together. The staff has done a really good job of kind of doing a 180 and putting things together for us in a virtual manner. Most of the program that we're used to seeing will be intact. Things like panels from, investment advisors or actuarial or the roll call of the states, a couple of great keynotes. So we're very excited about what we were able to do on relatively short notice to get together and keep this going. We just thought it was really important for the community to have a forum to get together. There's a lot that we probably need to talk about this year, and this will give us a chance to do that.
So let's look ahead, Jim. You speak to the board. You have a board that has board of trustees, or for lack of a better term, that has oversight of the pension plan. But what are the things that you, the board, your team are thinking about in 2020? I have to think that COVID, for like everybody else, is going to be at the top of the list. But what are some of your top focus points the remainder of the year?
Pretty much business as usual. We do have experience studies. We do 5-year experience studies, and this is the year that we're doing that. So I imagine we'll have some interesting results in terms of some assumptions that we need to take a good hard look at. We're always taking a look at certainly our investment assumptions, and things like mortality rates are changing all the time. So kind of the normal business of the system from that standpoint. We've made a couple of minor tweaks to our funding policy. I'll have to make sure those get implemented. There was some legislation that passed for a couple of groups that allow them to do certain service purchases, and making sure that those get implemented. And we continue to work with Alight on potential enhancements to our service offering with them. One of the things that's really important for us is to try to bring the defined benefit and the defined contribution systems together into a single coherent retirement offering, and kind of make it look like one program rather than two separate plans. And Alight's been a great partner in having those discussions with us and helping us work through those conversations. And
you mentioned early in the first segment the CARES Act and how important some of those provisions were to your membership in the DC plan. We often forget about the Secure Act, Jim, and its passage over 6 months ago. Do you think that, as part of the conversations with Alight, as well as your board, that you could eventually see some of those discussions pick up? I know in our last discussion we did talk about retirement income and something that you were thinking about as a board, as a group. But anything else you think you'll get back on that as a topic as well?
The retirement income continues to be a huge focus for us. As you know, we passed legislation about a year ago, and we're currently implementing that for a January 1 live date. So we'll be very interested to see how the membership responds to that becoming available to them.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see that if we can ever get off the COVID pandemic, especially, and kind of refocusing on retirement security. Well, Jim, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Congratulations to you, the team, and everyone in the public sector community for keeping pensions going, doing everything they need to do to support membership around the country. Take care, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
I look forward to it, Jeff.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, and more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Attention! The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has officially authorized new benefits that Medicare Advantage plans may include. To get the benefits you deserve, you can call the Medicare Coverage Helpline.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. If you're on Medicare, this is important information. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline and they instantly looked up my coverage. In this one simple call, they offered to enroll me in a plan that includes rides to medical appointments, private home aides, doctors and nurses' visits by telephone, and even home-delivered meals. The plan also includes dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage, all at no additional cost.
Don't delay. Call to see if the new benefits are available in your area.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-757-1451. That's 1-800-757-1451.